we wake up with these thoughts, and these thoughts bring emotions, and these emotions cause actions. And we go out into the world with a certain frequency, a certain mood we bring into the world. And after a while, that mood becomes a temperament. And then that temperament gets locked in and repeated and repeated and repeated and built upon and built upon and built upon over months, and then seasons, and then perhaps years. And then that becomes someone's personality. So you go from this emotion to mood, mood to temperament, temperament to personality. And the thing that you can see in this explanation of how we develop a personality of one kind or another is that it's a training. As everyone comes to this circle with an inquiry, something that's on your mind, something that's in your heart. And which one of you would like to present your inquiry first? All right, let's start with Brian then.
Again, first of all, I'm a longtime member, and this is amazing. Because of you and this community, I have finally started moving from a fear-based recovery away from something into love and light. But that's only because of you and this community. So I'm 61 years old. I've been in recovery since May of '92, food and alcohol mostly. I used to weigh over 300 pounds, giving away I'm down to 175.
Wow, you look fantastic.
12-stepper. I do have a morning practice, and I'm new to yoga. I'm a yoga baby. My question is this. Are our personalities fixed, or can they be transformed? Is the only hope we have through our morning practices and spiritual practice to be less of something that we're trying not to do anymore? So specifically, I believe sarcasm is in my DNA. And I just don't want to harm people anymore. I don't want to do that, especially my wife. I have an amazing wife, children, great colleagues, people I work with. I don't want to do that anymore. And I feel like it's like this automatic response that's just part of my personality that I say it and then I regret it, or it just comes so fast. And it's getting a little better, but I really want to go out of this earth as fulfilled and maximize my experiences. And I don't want to hurt anybody with humor and words anymore. You said something in the circle recently. You told somebody that they will let it go when it no longer serves them. And I can't figure out what this is.
Yes.
So that's my question.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to repeat back so I get it, and then let's dive into this inquiry, this beautiful inquiry. I'm hearing the very succinctly stated inquiry: are our personalities fixed? Yes. And the unpacking of that inquiry in this case for you has to do at this stage in your development with the use of a certain tone, a certain kind of sarcasm, that a quickness, a sharpness that may have served you at some point, but at this point you see it as being hurtful to others and you're tired of it.
It's as if you know me.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. So I'm gonna jump down this road of exploration on this inquiry. I'll be back with you in a moment. So, are our personalities fixed? No. Straight up. And we begin to look at personality as personal reality. Personal reality. Personality. So we begin with the exploration of thinking about thoughts and emotions. We have thoughts, let's say when we wake up in the morning, we have certain thoughts. And let's say, like most people, those thoughts skew a little bit negative. When we first wake up in the morning, maybe there's some stress or even just thoughts like, wow, this is going to be a big day. I'm going to need, a lot of energy to get through it. Or maybe it's straight up, kind of difficult, like, wow, I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed already. I haven't put my feet on the ground yet. I've got to get my kids out the door. I've been trapped in this behavior, in this belief system that's not serving me, blah, 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 blah. And it begins before you even get out of bed. Those thoughts bring emotion. Those emotions arise in the body as energy. Worry, stress, anger, rage, guilt, shame, sadness, loneliness, whatever it is that comes in. And those thoughts bring those emotions. And the interesting thing is that those thoughts from that morning, which brought those emotions that morning, are very similar to the thoughts from the previous morning, and the morning before that, and the morning before that, and the morning before that. And so what happens is the first thing that we develop in this repetition of similar thoughts and the emotions that rise out of those thoughts is we develop a mood. Wow, you seem to be in a bad mood today. You're a little bit off today. I wonder what that is. And so someone might notice, or you might notice, wow, I'm in a kind of a pissy mood. Well, mood is just a mood, and at some point that mood's going to pass or not. If that mood continues and the same thoughts bring the same emotions that next day and that next day and that next day, you go out in the world and you have similar experiences with relatively similar people, similar food, similar experiences, and you start to get into a routine. And once you're in a routine, that mood, which was just what could be a passing mood, starts to get embedded into the mind-body system, and that mood becomes a temperament. Wow, he was a man of ill temperament. He had a really rough temperament, that guy. Or she was a woman of really difficult temperament. Wow, you didn't want to get on her bad side. She had a bad temperament. So we wake up with these thoughts, and these thoughts bring emotions, and these emotions cause actions. And we go out into the world with a certain frequency, a certain mood we bring into the world, and after a while that mood becomes a temperament. And then that temperament gets locked in and repeated and repeated and repeated and built upon and built upon and built upon over months, and then seasons, and then perhaps years. And then that becomes someone's personality. Wow, they were just a bitter person. They were angry, very sharp. They were reactive. They came with a harsh tone. They were violent, or didn't seem very relaxed. They were a discontented person. That was their personality. So you go from this emotion to mood, mood to temperament, temperament to personality. And the thing that you can see in this explanation of how we develop a personality of one kind or another is that it's a training. We followed a path to become the way that we are. We took actions, the actions we felt we needed to take at the time, and those actions ended up creating more thought, more emotion, more actions. And there was a wheel that we found ourselves on, and we could call that the wheel of karma, where thought leads to action, action leads to more action and more thought. Thought brings up emotion, emotion compels action, action compels more action and more thought. And we thought we were free the whole time. We were clean and sober. We'd put down drugs and alcohol. Wow, it's amazing. And it is amazing. But at this level of discernment and this level of consciousness, now we're starting to see, wow, our work's only just begun. Because I'm stuck on this wheel of thought and action, emotion, and I'm stuck in a routine, and I'm stuck on this, in this groove. I seem to meet the same types of people. I seem to react to my loved ones the same kind of way, with the same kind of tone. And thank God you awoke to it. Thank God. And you were able to say, well, this isn't working for me. I don't like this in me. And I liken it to, this is a little story of my version of what you've brought up here in the circle today, Brian, is that very same sarcasm that you're speaking about. I lived by that growing up in New York City as a kid. Me and all my friends were on each other, making fun of each other, sharp, and like it was constant, and it was just exhausting. Like you were always having to one up the next guy, and always having to, come with your clever response and your funny joke and your sarcastic remark, and whoever was the more sarcastic and the funnier and the more quick-witted, you were the winner. You were the sort of cool kid, and for a little while it made you feel good, and it served you. And somewhere along the line, I went away from home. I left that peer group of people. I went off to boarding school, and then I went off to college. And when I would go back and hang out with my old friends, at least at that time, they were still speaking in the same way, behaving in the same way, reacting in the same way. And when I would go back to hang out with them, I would default back into these ways of being, back into the same language, back into the same sarcastic jokiness, being a clown, not being able to elevate the conversation to any other level. It was just guys being guys with locker room talk and one-upmanship and the girl you slept with and the thing and this and that and the other thing. And it was just very, very low vibration for me at that point. And the reason I can say that is because when I would say certain things and behave the way I used to behave, I felt it immediately as something's wrong. I don't like what I just said. Now, I was in recovery at this point, and so I was being made to look at my behavior with rigorous honesty. And so when I spoke and something was out of alignment, I was sarcastic in some way, or I had this sort of way of speaking which no longer was relevant for the current level of consciousness that I was working on, I would feel it right away, and it would feel really shitty. And I knew that I needed new language, I needed new conversations, I needed a new way of being. And really feeling that. And then I looked up the etymology of the word sarcasm. Do you know it? The etymology of the word sarcasm, it originates from Greek. It means to tear the flesh. Sarkos. Sarkos. To tear the flesh with your teeth. And so I had basically spent a childhood and an adolescence getting very good at that kind of communication. And I did it because that's what was around me. That's what I could emulate. I didn't have a higher vibration teacher to show me something different, or at least I wasn't able to see something different at that time in my development. But once I read that definition and I started to have these experiences of, wow, I can't say these things anymore. I can't use that tone of voice anymore. I can't speak about women the way I used to speak about like girls when I was a kid or an adolescent. Like none of that is working for me anymore. And all of that came together into this very serious desire to change my behavior, my tone, and the words that I use. And that you bring this up here is so important because recovery, part of recovery is to understand, well, it's to start to see the patterns that you've been in. not just with using a drug or an alcohol or a food or a sex thing or a money thing or whatever the thing is, but to see, I've been in patterns in my relationships, for example. I've been in patterns in my speech, the way I use words. You know what I would aspire to for me, like I'm a writer. I love to write and I love words and I recognize the power of words. I'd love to be an amazingly skillful wordsmith with a very large and bright vocabulary to be able to express beautiful and meaningful ideas in an inspiring way. I'm interested in that use of words. I'd love to be good at that. Now, what's powerful about that is I'm not only trying not to do something, meaning not to be sarcastic, not to use that tone, but I'm trying to do something, which is to develop a greater awareness of my words when I use them, and to develop a better vocabulary to express concepts in a more artful, skillful, and pleasing way, pleasing to me and to people that might receive the words. And I'm starting to up level my game. I'm starting to up level, like I can hear it and see it in you, that you do not any longer desire to be sarcastic, especially with your wife and your family. And that you've seen that has really run its course. It's run its course for you. Without knowing them, I'm guessing it's probably run its course for them too, on some level, which is usually how that happens. But that's okay, because you're catching it and you have the willingness to ask such a question, and now that can be changed. When I started to delve deeply into yoga, and you said that you were a newcomer to yoga now, a yoga baby, as you put it, a wonderful place to be. Coming to a beautiful set of practices and principles that support you in the very thing that you're trying to do right now, which is to become more aware, in this case, on the level of your speech and your tone, which is a part of yoga, of course. Yoga, the physical practice, is one thing. Yoga, the life practice, is another thing. And in this life practice, one of the places that we seek awareness and we seek power, in the best use of that word, is in our speech. And going all the way back to Buddha and long before Buddha, the idea of right speech has been something that has been an important part of the spiritual path. Now, sometimes when we're on retreat at Recovery 2.0, I'll say to people, raise your hand if you have ever used words that hurt somebody's feelings. And of course, everybody in the room raises their hand. And then I'll say, raise your hand if you've ever used words that made somebody feel better or uplifted somebody. And of course, everybody raises their hand. And this right there speaks to the unbelievable power of our words and tone and delivery. We have the power with our words to create a world. We can create a world with our words, and we can tear that world down also. The yogis say, be conscious of your exhale. Part of the reason and part of what that's about is that just like I'm doing right now, I couldn't be speaking unless I'm exhaling. So our words are carried on our exhale. I can't simultaneously inhale and speak to you out loud. I can't do it. So it's required that we have a good breath and that we're exhaling as we're speaking like I am right now. And that we're being mindful of our exhale, meaning not just being mindful of the exhale to have a good exhale, but you might say to have a kind exhale, meaning that the words that come off of our exhale are kind, compassionate, considerate, all of this is to say that you can absolutely change your personal reality or your personality. From the example I used earlier of waking up in the morning with thoughts which skew negative, which bring emotions, and then bring actions in their wake, we can make a decision, as we do in Recovery 2.0, to get up out of bed and to break the pattern of our thinking. And the way that we do that is with a morning practice, a morning spiritual practice that's called sadhana. Sadhana takes many forms. It usually has a little bit of movement, a little bit of breath, a little bit of meditation and silence. It's a way for us to break out of the inertia, the momentum of our continuing mental chatter, to break it, and then to settle ourselves in ourself. Then the thoughts change, the emotions change, our reactions change, our day changes, the people that we encounter changes. We start to address our relationship with food, that changes. We start to address all of our relationships, that changes. Certainly our speech is going to change as well. That sarcasm that has been part of your training and served you at a certain point in your life, which is no longer serving you, which is why you want to let go of it, that it will be something that you notice when you revert back to that tone and that way of communication. You will immediately notice it, especially if you do that morning practice, and you're going to have a greater level of awareness. You will immediately notice, and you'll be able to catch it, and then you'll be able to do the thing that is very difficult to do in the moment, which is to say to the person, you know, the way I just spoke to you, I don't like how I did that. I apologize. I'm going to try better next time. And you can explain, I'm working on communicating better and not using sarcasm, and I want to have a better tone. And if you do that enough times with enough people, it's going to be so in your awareness that you're going to find yourself moving into a much, much better vocabulary and a much, much better way of communicating. Now, your personality, your personal reality will change as a result of you changing your frequency and as a result of you changing your thought process. Your emotional reality will change. Your life will change. And there is something in you that will not change, and that is your nature. Your nature. You're very kind-hearted, sweet-hearted, brave-hearted, light-hearted nature. That's not going to change. That will just blossom. That will show up. And that will come from the back of the stage to the foreground. And the aspects that are divine in you will be able to shine more brightly. And from that place, buckle up for the greatest rest of your life you could ever possibly imagine. Tell me, Brian, what's coming up for you as we explore this?
I'm a little overwhelmed. I never really, all these years, never thought to look up what the root word sarcasm meant. Quite the visual, the ripping of flesh. But that's exactly what it is, right? It's really attacking somebody with words. So if I hear what you're saying is stay the course, And the more that I can vibrate out of the frequency of recovery, I guess this is why they use the word concentration a little bit. Like you're starting to be more present and aware. I love this term, kind exhale. I think that's going to be, that puts that pause that I need. That could be something that, like a mantra for myself before I speak. If I focus on that, because that little pause is probably all I need to catch myself, as you say, and then I can make that shift. Yeah, I'm just. It's because I think it's created this inner disturbance in me because that's not who I want to be, or hopefully the main part of me that I'm not that. But to do that then seems to just, that's the conflict. That, and you're so right. If I'm around people, it's a flow, and I can just chime in. So I think just having a great awareness of the energy, use the word energy, the energy in the room, my energy, I can see this all coming together.
Beautiful. Well, it's not authentically you anymore. And every time you or I or anyone does something that's out of alignment, to the extent that you are aware and can catch it, it's going to become less and less tolerable for you. Like we simply won't tolerate this behavior in ourselves. And so it's just a great place to be, because you don't have to tolerate this behavior anymore. And it's coming from you. It's generated by you. The message is coming through you. And now it's an opportunity to one day at a time, just bring a greater awareness and to transform this one comment, one statement, one present moment at a time. So it's such a powerful and beautiful inquiry. I'm really grateful. Thank you.